Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Be right with you guys. Alrighty, we're just about to start here. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Put in the chat if the audio looks good right now. But welcome into this new More Weather live stream. We're going to be breaking down the next couple of days where we're expecting severe storms. Today we got an enhanced risk 3 out of 5. Tomorrow we got an enhanced risk, and then on Tuesday we also have an enhanced risk, and then we're going to be watching Wednesday and maybe even on to Thursday there, as well as a large weather system moves from the west to the east across the central United States and eventually into the eastern portion of the United States. But happy Sunday, happy Masters Sunday if you're watching that, and welcome into this broadcast. Hope you guys have had a great weekend and continue to have a great one. But first things first, we got to get into is the severe weather threat for today. A more regional severe weather threat for parts of the Northeast, and where you have an enhanced risk, as you can see down here, 3 out of 5 threat for severe weather, and this includes portions of central and western Pennsylvania there, and into parts of eastern Ohio. That includes Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania there, as well, all the way up towards State College there, if I'm not mistaken. So we got that enhanced risk, that slight risk around that, and that marginal risk around that, and that does include the New York City area. So we're going to be watching for some storms throughout parts of the Northeast this later today into this evening. And if we we'll check the audio real quick. I don't know if anybody's put in the chat yet, but this is supposed to be an interactive live stream, so if you have any questions, make sure to put that in the chat. Drew Ferguson, are you thinking tomorrow could be a major tornado outbreak? At the moment, no. I don't think it's going to be a major tornado outbreak, and I think I'm pretty right on that one, because overall most of the models and the data is not pointing towards that. But let's look at the threats for today. We do have that 5% tornado threat, as you can see there in the brown. That includes portions of western Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio, And then we do have that hail threat elevated just to the north of Pittsburgh. But the largest threat today is for sure going to be that damaging wind threat with a 30% elevated damaging wind threat there in the red for that enhanced risk region. So again, damaging winds, some, large hail here and there, and an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. But mainly damaging winds as this line of storms pushes from the north to the south through Pennsylvania and into portions of eastern Ohio there. Now, if we look at the HRRR model, timing this out, let me see actually if we have the 18Z ready here yet. We can go, okay, it looks like we can. So as we go into here around, this is going into around 4 p.m., we're starting to get that convection starting to pop off here, as you can see right here near Erie, Pennsylvania, points south there into the northwestern part of the state. And this will continue to grow into this kind of clusters or clusters of lines of storms here, moving from the north through the south, through eastern Ohio, and pretty much all of Pennsylvania. And again, this is going to be mostly a damaging wind threat as this again moves to the south from the north, kind of just like that, moving down to the south. And again, we could see an isolated tornado too. We could see some hail here or there, but the main threat to watch out for is going to be those damaging winds as this line of storms moves to the south, entering Pittsburgh area here around 9 p.m. and then going into 10 p.m. and it really does fizzle out. So it's going to be short-lived, but it's going to likely pack a punch with damaging winds, some hail, and maybe an isolated tornado. So make sure you're prepared for this if you're in Scranton, over towards State College, over towards Pittsburgh, Erie, Pennsylvania, points south there, Youngstown, Ohio there, as well into the eastern part of Ohio and into southern New York there as well. In New York City, later tonight, we could see a couple rumbles of thunder as we get into around midnight there. But again, that fizzles out. Again, just make sure you're prepared for damaging winds, some hail, and a couple tornadoes. This is not a very strong threat. This is a threat to watch out for if you're up there for sure, and to be prepared for. You have multiple ways to receive warnings if you hear thunder, go indoors. But nothing to be too worried about. Just be prepared, and you will be just fine for this. Now, into tomorrow, that's where our threat kind of goes up a little as we can look at Monday, which will again be tomorrow, as today is Sunday. Again, if you're just tuning in, happy Sunday and welcome into live stream. And yeah, I hope the audio does look like it's doing well here. Do you think we could have hail driven moderate tomorrow? From what I've looked at, I think it'll stay enhanced, but we'll see what happens. I think that's definitely a possibility, Devin. Yeah, good pointing out that, because it looks like a hail threat's going to be pretty significant. But as we look at tomorrow, we do have that enhanced risk into parts of Nebraska and northern Kansas, and then another enhanced risk to the west of Oklahoma City into western Oklahoma and into parts of northern Texas. So a double barrel enhanced risk threat. We got one area of elevated threat here and one area of elevated threat here to the west of OKC. And then all around that, a very large slight risk, because we can't just focus on the enhanced risk area. We got to focus on the areas around that as well. And the slight risk does include Kansas City, all the way down to Fort Worth area, barely into Fort Worth, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, up towards Salina, Kansas, Topeka, Kansas here as well, Omaha, Nebraska there. So some pretty big population centers that are in that slight risk that we got to watch as well. And then that marginal risk includes St. Louis, Dallas there, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Des Moines, Iowa there as well. And we also do have to watch a more localized slight risk over into the eastern coast around Richmond and Virginia Beach, as well as Norfolk, Virginia right there as well. But we're mainly going to be focusing on this area of heightened threat into the Great Plains. Now, if we look at the forward panel, you can see tornado threat not very high, but we have a very large 5% tornado threat, which I don't really like to say 5%. I'm more like saying an isolated tornado or two may be possible, because when people hear 5%, you may even hear 5% if you're watching this and not really into weather and think, oh, there's a 95% chance we're not going to see a tornado. But that's not really how we want you guys to look at it. To look at it that there is an isolated tornado or two possible. I think that's a better way of messaging this instead of saying 5%, because it's only us weather weenies that really exactly understand what that means. But again, 5% chance, and that stretches from Oklahoma City all the way up through into Lincoln, Nebraska, as well as Omaha, Nebraska. So again, an isolated tornado here or there cannot be ruled out. Definitely going to be something to watch. But like Devin pointed out, the main threat we're watching is going to be that hail threat, and that's in those two enhanced risk areas, and then we do have that heightened threat in that hatched area all the way through parts of the slight risk there as well. You can see right in there, that's where we're expecting our heightened hail threat. If you have any cars outside right now, make sure to put them in tomorrow when you have time to do that. Anything valuable, you don't want getting dents in them, especially, of course, your vehicles. Put that inside because, again, this is going to be a hail-driven threat. Hey, Max Velocity. Tuesday might be the bigger day if Monday doesn't come together. Yeah, for sure. I've been looking at that, seen a lot on Monday, and it looks like it's not looking too significant, but still going to have to watch it. Yeah, I do agree on that. And then again, tomorrow for Monday, we do have a smaller wind threat, but still something to watch. This is not a very significant wind threat, but again, it's going to be mainly hail-driven there in those two enhanced risk areas and all the way down through that slight risk there as well. Again, hail-driven event, that's where you really want to be prepared for, as well as, of course, a couple isolated tornadoes here and there, some scattered damaging winds, but mainly that hail threat. Large hailstones are going to be falling from storms tomorrow, that's for sure. And you want to be prepared for that. Now, as we first look at the HRRR model, we're going to time this out and then go into other things regarding tomorrow's event. But as we time this out, let's see, we're still in the 12Z. I don't know if the 18Z has come out that far yet. Doesn't look like it yet, so we'll just stick with the 12Z for now. Get that going. Alright, let's get to Monday. Alright, so on Monday afternoon into Monday evening, so tomorrow evening, that's when we're going to start seeing these storms likely start to fire off. This is around 7 p.m. tomorrow, so this is 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and we get those storms starting to fire out around 6 to 7 p.m., and this is into northern Nebraska, southern South Dakota. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes a little bit farther south into Kansas as well, but these are going to be big-time hailstorms. They're also going to have the potential for producing tornadoes in this setup here, moving from the southwest to the northeast, kind of from that south to north, coming up here, initiating around here, and then going to the north. Again, this is what the radar could look like as we go into tomorrow. It's not the exact situation, but it's something that gives us a scenario that could play out and, you know, a couple hints of what we're really going to want to be expecting tomorrow. We're also likely going to have an area of storms developing into northern Texas here as well, where that enhanced risk drops down in through here into western Oklahoma. But into western Oklahoma, where if you've been tuning in, you've been hearing, oh, western Oklahoma, major tornado outbreak, this and that. There's no storms there right now, and that's something we've been watching closely. Because if we look at a sounding, western Oklahoma here tomorrow evening, we do have a significant capping going on here, which inhibits those storms from developing. See this, minus 291? I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's a significant cap. And if we look at the sounding here, you see how this goes in through here and then goes back out. That's a significant cap right there, and that inhibits these storms from developing here into western Oklahoma. That's why we're not going to see that tomorrow evening. But then as we go into tomorrow overnight hours and into early Tuesday, that's when we could see those storms start to fire off here into western Oklahoma and into Kansas, and a couple of storms there could really pack a punch with all threats possible there. So we're going to be having to watch that as we go into early Tuesday morning. So we're talking 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. there after midnight, maybe late on Monday, but likely early Tuesday morning. That's what it's looking like. Again, we're still got to get more info on this as well and see when this exactly is expected to happen. But again, we see that first area of storms through northern Texas, that area of storms up into Nebraska, South Dakota, and Kansas. And then another area tries to fire off here again as we go into early Tuesday morning. So into the overnight hours, into the dark hours, I like to call it when it's dark outside, from late Monday into early Tuesday morning. So we're talking probably midnight onwards towards around 7 a.m. And I think this region is likely where we're probably going to see that development of storms during that period. So we'll have to watch that closely. Again, a couple of storms firing off here as well, but we'll have to see if that continues to show, and make sure you follow me on Twitter for more updates on that, because I think when we're going to see that threat into western Oklahoma may be Tuesday morning. Or, again, if we continue to see that capping in place through the morning, I think we might not see a very elevated severe storm threat for western Oklahoma, and that's something I've been watching closely. At first we were looking at this a couple days ago, and it was going to be big, huge threat, which is how a lot of these events go. But really, as you start looking closer at it, start looking more at the details, it's not too significant a threat. Still something you want to be prepared for. Again, especially there into northern Nebraska, southern South Dakota, northern Kansas, here into northern Texas, into parts of Oklahoma there as well. Again, for that 2 areas of that significant hail threat, both of these areas will likely have pretty significant hail on them, so that's where we're going to be watching for that. But again, into western Oklahoma, where we do have that enhanced risk, we're going to have that capping in place, inhibiting storms from initiating or firing off, and that's going to likely save us from some pretty bad storms, that convective inhibition from happening. Again, Tuesday morning, could we have some storms firing off into parts of Kansas and into Oklahoma? Yes, so we'll have to watch that there as well. But let's take a closer look at that. If we look at the surface-based cape for tomorrow, we're going to have a lot of convective available potential energy across the Great Plains from Nebraska all the way down into Kansas, into Oklahoma there, as well as into northern Texas. So definitely this is going to be a lot of fuel for our storms tomorrow. So they won't really have that hard of a time firing off if they're not into the parts of the area where we're expecting that convective inhibition. What's up, James? And again, we're watching a large area of convective available potential energy, that instability that the storms are going to fuel off of here. But then into western Oklahoma, that's where we're going to be having that capping in place, that convective inhibition. So we're going to have the instability, but we're not going to be able to get those storms to fire off because of that convective inhibition. And that's going to save us from these strong storms likely, because they're not going to be able to fire off because of that convective inhibition. But yeah, everybody, welcome into the stream. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat, because this is supposed to be an interactive stream, just a forecast discussion. I was going to do a forecast video today, but kind of ran out of time for that, so we're just doing a live stream, go a little bit more in depth here. But let me put this up just a little bit so you guys can see that. But again, here's our instability for tomorrow. This is around 8 p.m. tomorrow. Again, we're going to be seeing storms at this time, likely in Nebraska and the southern South Dakota, into parts of Kansas there as well, and into northern Texas, but then into western Oklahoma. That's where we're going to be seeing that convective inhibition in place. Again, this is going to be a mainly hail-driven event that we're watching, so these storms are going to have large hail. Make sure you protect your cars, anything valuable outside that you don't want to get dented, especially your vehicles. Put that inside tomorrow morning or tonight if you have time. So you can do that. But again, as we go into not tomorrow morning, but Tuesday morning, we're going to be seeing this cold front going across parts of the Great Plains in through here. We're going to be seeing this cooler air over here. Again, my handwriting on this screen, I shouldn't even write it, but I was going to write cooler there, but my handwriting is terrible with this Epic pen or whatever it's called. But again, we're going to have warmer air over here, cooler air over here, kind of this cold front in through here, and then there into early Tuesday morning, that's where we could see some storms firing off into here through Oklahoma, up through Kansas there as well. I'm watching that threat closely. We'll see if we get that to happen, and we'll have more details there soon as we go into tomorrow. But if we don't see, those storms fire off into parts of Oklahoma to Monday night, so tomorrow evening and into tomorrow night, that's likely because we're not going to see that we're going to see that convective inhibition. But then as we get that kind of erode away and into early Tuesday, we could see a couple storms fire off, so I'm watching that. Yeah, everybody, welcome into the streams. Thank you, everybody, for watching, tuning in for this forecast discussion. Again, as we look into tomorrow or Tuesday morning, we do have that instability in place. So I think there's a great possibility that Tuesday morning across western, central, and pretty much all of Oklahoma into the eastern part of the state, moving to the northeast direction as we go into, again, early Tuesday morning. I think we could have some storms firing off in here that we're going to have to be watching as well. Again, that'll be early Tuesday morning. But now let's shift gears, looking at Tuesday's threat, and we do have an enhanced risk, as you can see right here, enhanced risk 3 out of 5 for severe weather, and this includes Des Moines, Iowa, Kirksville, Missouri there as well. And so we're going to be watching this from northern Missouri into southern and central Iowa. And again, we're going to be watching if this gets expanded at all. But for right now, Storm Prediction Center has this enhanced risk from northern Missouri into parts of extreme western Illinois and into southern Iowa, and a very large slight risk. We can't just talk about the enhanced risk. We also got to talk about the people who are in the slight risk, where we do have pretty major population centers here. We do have St. Louis, Chicago, as you can see right up there, Kansas City, down through Little Rock, Texarkana, Fort Smith, Shreveport, Louisiana here as well, Memphis, Tennessee, Poplar Bluff, Missouri, Springfield, Illinois here as well. So a lot of population centers that are going to be in that slight risk as well. And that's why we're watching this closely, because this doesn't affect a lot of people as we see those storms coming through on Tuesday. It could get expanded, including St. Louis. Yeah, that's going to be a possibility, I think, for sure. But we don't have too many details on this yet. Not the high-resolution rapid refresh model. It doesn't go out this far just yet. But here, as we go into the night and into tomorrow, that's when we're going to be watching for more details on this and more data to come through the models. Now, if we look at the probability outlook, since this is a day 3, we don't get that 4 panel with tornado, wind, and hail. There's the probability from the Storm Prediction Center. And again, where we have that most elevated area is going to be from Des Moines into northern Missouri. So again, central and southern Iowa into central and northern Missouri there. And that's where we're expecting, that's where the Storm Prediction Center is seeing the greatest threat for severe weather as we go into tomorrow for the strongest severe storms. Again, in that area highlighted there in the red, and that hatching right there. Now, if we look at the NAM 3-kilometer model going into Tuesday at around 7 p.m., we have that area of storms coming through along this cold front. We're going to see these storms popping off, and I've seen this a lot of times. Living in St. Louis, I've seen a lot of these setups before, and what we get is we get this cold front coming down right in through here, and then we get these storms to fire off one by one through central and into western Missouri and moving to the east-northeast. So we're going to have to watch this very closely. This is likely going to be an all-hazards day on Tuesday, it is looking like. I'm sorry, I can't read that. That's in Spanish. You're going to have to translate that. But, yeah, I've seen some of your messages on here before, but I've just never been able to read them because I don't know Spanish. But, yeah, this is where we're going to be seeing those storms coming through. Again, these could be a couple supercell storms here as well. As you can see, one by one, all kind of in this linear line, but not really a more broken line of storms. Not a totally linear, but a more broken line of storms coming through here. And again, this could affect the St. Louis area up towards Hannibal and Quincy, up through Des Moines as well, an area of storms coming through Tuesday evening. But again, this is not exactly what the radar is going to look like. This is just an example of a scenario that we could have Tuesday evening. It kind of gives us more info on what we're kind of expecting for Tuesday. And again, I've seen these setups before where we get these cold fronts coming down, and I think this is similar to what we're going to see. These storms firing off ahead of the cold front, up through Iowa and Des Moines, down through Missouri, heading to the east-northeast towards St. Louis, say Hannibal and Quincy, eventually to the Quad Cities, and that's going to be, again, Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday evening. So that's where we're going to be watching that there. Now, I do have the European model. Okay, yeah, we have mixed layer cape with photographs right here. So as we go into Tuesday evening, here's where our convective available potential energy is. This is mixed layer cape. This is not surface-based cape. But this also shows our photographs. And those curved photographs are what you're going to want to see to see tornadoes. Say you're storm chasing and you want to see tornadoes, you're going to want to see those curved photographs on the screen. And that's what we're seeing right here as we're going into, again, the same time frame I was looking at, 7 p.m. there on Tuesday. We get those curved photographs. We got the convective variable potential energy in place. At this point, the cold front should be about like this, maybe a little bit more to the east. And we're going to be seeing these storms likely firing off along it from, again, central Missouri into southern Iowa and the central Iowa there as well, moving to the east, northeast, and again, Hannibal and Quincy area, St. Louis area, points north, Quad Cities, Des Moines, all going to be having to watch out for this as we're going to have that fuel for the storms there in the blue and gray colors. And then those photographs, see those curved photographs, that means we got pretty significant wind shear, which means that tornado threat's going to be something to really watch. So again, another day of severe weather is going to be possible in St. Louis. We've been hit a couple of times now, 2 or 3 times, with some pretty significant storms now in the past couple of weeks, past a month or two here, and likely another threat for St. Louis, and this time into southern Iowa and central Iowa there as well, moving into Des Moines and eventually Quad Cities, Chicago. We could be watching that as well late Tuesday into early Wednesday. And that about wraps up this More Weather live stream. Make sure you subscribe. Go follow me on X for more updates. Again, I was going to do a forecast video, but I decided to do a live stream because I kind of ran out of time. And I did want to go a little bit more in depth because we've got a ton of severe weather to talk about. But make sure you're prepared for those storms later this afternoon into this evening into parts of the Northeast, again, Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio. Then tomorrow, a hail-driven threat into parts of Nebraska, South Dakota, northern Kansas, down to western Oklahoma, especially northern Texas. Again, that's mostly a hail-driven threat. A couple isolated tornadoes possible as well. And then on Tuesday, what we just looked at, that could be all hazards from Des Moines down through St. Louis there, as well into Missouri, Iowa, Illinois there as well. Want to be prepared for that. We'll have more details on that tomorrow and into Tuesday. Make sure you stay prepared out there. Have a great weekend. Have a great time watching the Masters. I know that's what I'm going to do when I head upstairs. But, yeah, have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great week.